The story of inheritance actually is told at the chromosomal level. Humans have 46 chromosomes, 2 sets of 23, which means they have 1 pair of each chromosome. If we have parent A and parent B, they each also have 2 sets of 23 for 46 total. But the real story here is that they got half of their DNA from their parents. And so if we wanted to illustrate parent A has half their DNA from mom and half from dad, we could use these 2 colors of noodles to show that, right? So 1 of each pair from mom, 1 of each pair from dad, all the way down for 2 sets of 23. When people procreate, they make gamete cells, and these gamete cells contain half of the genetic information, basically 1 of each of the 23, 1 of each pair, right? And so when that process happens, we get one number 1 from parent A, number 1 from parent B, right, all the way down, and they wind up making these half cells in males are called sperm, and these half cells in females are called eggs. So you have one number 1, one number 2, one number 3 in each of these cells. And when the sperm and the egg join together through a process of fertilization, you now get a cell called a zygote. And that zygote, now because you got one number 1 from mom and one number 1 from dad, has 2 sets, right, of all 23 chromosomes, which will start to grow and divide and organize through the process of mitosis to become a full human. Each chromosome contains space for the same trait information. So let's say chromosome number 1 contains the space for hair type information. That means if you wanted to find out what kind of hair type somebody has, you would go look at their chromosome number 1s. And so that's going to be the case for all humans because we have 2 chromosome number 1s. We're going to have a piece of information about what kind of hair we get from mom and a piece of information about what kind of hair we get from dad. But both of our parents have their information from mom and dad. And so when we're trying to predict the probability, there's basically 4 possible combinations that you could inherit from your parents, because like with dad, right, if it has this blue chromosome, you could get blue from dad and either red from mom or white from mom. And then you could get yellow from dad and either red from mom or white from mom. And so there's 4 possible combinations that you could get anytime that you have inheritance from the parents, depending on whether you get grandma or grandpa's chromosomes inherited from each parent. Now, for every trait, there's typically multiple versions of the trait, like there's curly hair and straight hair. And so in the case of humans, we get curly hair is a dominant capital H and straight hair is a recessive lowercase h. Trying to figure out these probabilities is super gnarly. And so this really cool guy, Reginald Punnett, came along and said, hey, let's do a square. So if we take dad's chromosomes, put them on the top, so we can see we've got that dominant curly and the recessive straight, and mom's put them on the side, then you bring the information into the box. So we have 1 from dad, right? Big H from dad, little h from mom, put it in the box. And then little h from dad and a big H from mom, or little h from mom, and put them in the box, right? Each of these boxes represents the information on the chromosomes. So you could get a dominant from dad and that recessive from mom. And then you could also get the recessive from dad and the recessive from mom. Doing a Punnett square with these capital and lowercase letters isn't saying that's what's on your DNA. It's a representation of the genetic information that's carried on each of the chromosomes that your parents have. So the Punnett square is just a representation, right? Any box with a capital letter in a Punnett square means that we're going to have that offspring inheriting a dominant trait characteristic. And so in this case, we've got 2 boxes that have that dominant trait out of 4, which is 25% and 25%, a 50% chance that these people's child will be born with curly hair, which is the dominant trait. And we have 2 boxes that have no capital letters, which means that these children are going to inherit all recessive information from their parents. So 25 plus 25 equals 50% chance that they would have straight hair. In this case, one parent has curly hair, dad has curly hair, and mom has straight hair. So 50-50 chance. This isn't always the case, but the Punnett square helps us to represent the genetic information and then predict the probability of inheritance, right? 50-50 chance in these parents of having a child with curly hair, 50-50 chance of them having a child with straight hair. Now, they could have 10 kids and they all have curly hair. They could have 10 kids and they all have straight hair, because each parent has 2 sets of each chromosome, and every time that they make sperm and eggs, they randomly select which one of each chromosome they give to each sperm and each egg. So there's that different genetic info that goes into each sperm and egg each time, and which one is the one that gets used and actually turns into the child is pretty random. So siblings inherit a completely different combination of traits than each other, unless they're identical twins, which again is a different video for a different time, which gives us genetic variation among siblings, but also genetic variation among humans in general. So I know I dropped a big word on you 5 minutes into this video, but genetic variation just means variety in genetics. And if a population is 100% identical, then everything's going to affect them the same. Like if a poison or a disease comes along and can kill one member of a completely identical population, it's going to take out everybody, because your genetics tell basically how your body is going to react to things. But if the population has a variety of traits due to sexual reproduction and everybody being a little bit different, that means that a disease or a poison isn't going to affect everybody the same way. So some members of the population are going to survive. Genetic variation is basically our understanding of what is the mechanism that has allowed sort of natural selection, genetic variation to be able to create all of the animals with all the adaptation that allow them to be able to survive in the world that we have today. Many of the variations started out as mutations, they became beneficial or just weren't a big deal, and so all animals and all plants have this variety of traits because they're things that allow them to survive successfully. And some of them are just cool, like people who have curly hair, or people who have blue eyes, or people who have freckles.